Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Formula Racing League Pure Sim Gear GT3 Masters. It's season 10. We had an excellent start at Spa last week, but now it's time for round two, bringing you all the action from the commentary box. And on behalf of 00 Raving Comms, my name is George Cook, and I am joined by none other than Rob Barker. Rob, how are you doing tonight?
Good evening, George, and welcome everybody into tonight's event. I'm feeling really good about this one, George, and I cannot wait for the action to begin.
Glad to have you on board, and we're off to Imola this week for round two. An excellent track with lots of tricky corners, 60 minutes for today's race and 15 minutes of qualifying to set the grid. Today, we get to talk about Success Ballast, something I'm quite excited about, and we will go through the ins and outs of it shortly after we talk you through the results from last week's race. But before let's get some information from on the ground. So over to you, Rob. You've been out there today. What are we in for today, and how are things looking out on track?
Yeah, George, not too bad actually. Of course, the weather for each of the races in this series is based on real-world weather from around the world, and today is no different. The weather is looking excellent so far, if not a little bit too, maybe a touch hot, with the ambient temperature of 28 degrees C, but luckily no rain on the horizon. The mandatory pit stops for all of the grid today. You must change your tyres, but no refueling is allowed. And we have multiple classes. We have Pro, Silver, Pro Am and Am categories here in the live stream. We will be covering the Pro category. On our sister channel, Formula Racing League TV2, we are streaming the Pro Am category. Prizes for the victors in each of the categories: a absolutely fantastic pair of pure sim gear sim racing gloves. Great prizes, and thank you to our sponsors Pure Sim Gear for kindly putting up those gloves.
Fantastic. Looking back now to the results from round one and our current standings. Our top 10 is, as it stands here, Nigel Taryn. He qualified fourth at Spa, took a flawless victory with some great overtakes. Then in P2 overall and in the race last time, Marco Keddy qualified eighth, but managed a great drive back to the podium positions. Lucas Weiss, who took pole position at Spa, had an unfortunate spin, but drove back brilliantly to take P3. Max Leinard took advantage of the chaos and went from P11 to take on the grid P4 at the end of the race. Dan Edvardsen qualified P6 but ended up taking position 5 at the end of the race. And then we've got Zach Duran, involved in lots of battles. I tell you, it was quite exciting to watch him. He started P9 and ended up in P6. Oleski Pachenko, a superb drive, qualifying in P17 to secure P7, 10 positions gained in the race. Salva Enrubia qualified P12 with a great finish in P8, followed by Nico Veldman, another huge leap up the grid, qualified P24, but took out P9, 15 positions gained. And rounding out your top 10 from round one, it's Tomasz Malolopski, who qualified P21 and finished P10.
And in your P11 position, Stachetsky, who qualified P2 in Spa, went backwards in the race, finishing P11. James Cowley, P12, 10 positions gained in the first race. Fantastic outing for him. In P13, we have Artem Menko, a plus 12 position gained at Spa. P14, we have Dulpov. P15, Mikel Rodriguez. P16, we have Andrei Verona, a very, very good driver. I think he started quite far back, if I remember correctly. P17, Daniel Fernandez. P18, Javier Gonzalez. P19, Martin Lindrup, who did go backwards in the race last week. And P20, Alan Brown.
Excellent. So we mentioned before that FRL has introduced a Success Ballast. This works by adding ballast to those in the top 5 positions in the previous race, ranging from 5 kilograms to 25 kilograms. So let's bring you who's going to get the ballast added onto their car for this race. It will be in position 1, Nigel Taryn. He's going to get 25 kilos of ballast. Marco Keddy in P2 will get 20. Lucas Weiss will be getting 15 kgs of ballast. Max Leinard, 10 kgs of ballast. And then Dan Edvardsen will be getting 5 kilograms. So let's now talk about today's circuit, Imola. What a track. The track length here is about 3.0 miles, around 4.9 kilometers, founded in 1953 and unchanged from 1994, located in Bologna, Italy. 19 corners, 8 to the right, 11 to the left, with an elevation change of around 34 meters. And for those of you Burks in the channel watching, 111 feet that is. So it's been a hot minute since Formula One has come to this circuit, last time being in 2006. At the time of postponement, Formula One said the decision was taken as they were unable to guarantee the safety of the fans, the teams and F1 personnel. Nonetheless, many virtual racing series still go to the circuit and enjoy its magnificence.
Yeah, indeed, named after Enzo Ferrari and his son Dino. Enzo, of course, the founder of Ferrari Automobile Company. Grigori Ivanov qualified P3 last time out in the Ferrari, unfortunately went backwards in race 1 and finds himself just outside the points in the championship. He will certainly want to finish up the grid this week, I'm sure. It does mean James Cowley, the UK driver, is the current lead Ferrari driver. Will one of these guys get the Tifosi on their feet? A unique layout with a mix of fast straights, chicanes and challenging corners. It's known for its undulating nature and changes in elevation. The track is celebrated for its rich history and contributions to motorsport and remains a favourite amongst the drivers and fans alike.
It's great information from our team here today, and we will be going out for a track walk to give you an idea of what this track is like. Just to give everyone a little update, about 4 minutes and 19 seconds until qualifying begins. We will jump straight onto the grid when that is ready. The teams at the moment just going and doing a little bit of practice and getting their cars set up and getting ready for the race ahead. So over to the track walk here, and we've got 3 sectors here at Imola today. It's a beautiful circuit located in Bologna, Italy. Beautiful day out there as well, which is always fantastic. Starting at the pit lane, down through Sector 1, one of the fastest areas here, into a hard left and right hand of Tamburello, down the back straight towards Villeneuve, through Tosa into Sector 2, which brings us up and round the top of the circuit to one of the trickier braking zones in Minerali. Starting down that pit straight is Sector 3 with Alta, another tricky chicane, followed by the last 2 corners of Rivazza, down the long pit straight. And it is quite the tricky race. Lots of technical corners, followed by very, very long straights. And it's going to create a real challenge for everyone out there today.
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal circuit, George, in my opinion. And I would probably got to put it up there in my top 10 to drive.
That's right. So we do have 15 minutes of qualifying coming up right now. So we, well, right now, I say right now, I said about 3 minutes. So we're going to head out on track very, very soon. But before then, I think it's time to maybe talk a little bit more about some of the championship standings. And one person I'm keeping my eye on today is going to be Ivanov. And you mentioned him earlier being one of the Ferrari drivers. Ivanov is actually one of the faster drivers on the grid. He had an absolutely disastrous time out there on track at Spa. He spun, unforced error, and then he sat in the pit lane for about 10 minutes, I think maybe wallowing in a little bit of sadness in what had happened. He was originally P2 and fell right down the back of the grid and just didn't have the motivation, it seemed, to bring it back. But we know he's really, really fast. So, as you said, who's going to get the Tifosi on the feet? I think that's a really good call because they are out in force.
Yeah, not many Ferraris out on track. I think we have the 6 Ferraris currently in the standings. I'm just having a quick look in at the lineup for the race to see who else we have. Yeah, as mentioned before previously, James Cowley in the number 510 in the Ferrari 296. We also have Chris Schneider in the number 14 Ferrari. Who else? We've got Marcel Weisser in the 222. And I think in the current standings, that is all the Ferrari drivers out there today. So
we'd think that there'd be more, considering this is one of the most famous circuits. Obviously, as you said, Enzo Ferrari and Ferrari himself's got a long, long, big history here. I mean, is this as famous as Monza? We know that Monza obviously is the sort of current place to go out and race and view if you're a Tifosi fan, but there's still plenty happening. History here, I think, is the most important thing at Imola.
Yeah, it's got a very, very rich history here at Imola, obviously. A lot of it surrounding the tragedy of a couple of, world-renowned drivers in Senna and Ratzenberger who unfortunately lost their lives at Imola, but yeah, phenomenal racing over the years, phenomenal track action, some brilliant opportunities to overtake, and it's into the last corners, the turn 14 and turn 15. That housing complex there, that must be one of the best houses to live in the world.
Absolutely. I can just imagine it. I can actually just imagine it. And beautiful little scenery around here as well. Typical Italian, sort of more kind of rural, I guess. I've been looking a little bit around on Google Maps. It looks absolutely beautiful there, sort of flanked by trees on either side. And, you know, what a day to be coming here as well. It's 28 degrees out there ambient. So, you know, get the cool drinks. Get the get the ice creams out and everything, because you're gonna need them if you're over in the stands. 29 degrees on track as well, so this is going to provide a bit of a challenge for all these drivers. Very, very tricky conditions. We are going to go to qualifying very, very soon. But Rob, last thoughts here on what we're going to be seeing in terms of tyre wear and things like that.
Yeah, temperature is slightly up. With an hour-long race, the drivers will have to pay mind to their tyre degradation. Obviously, they can stop, but the refueling is not allowed in this race. Just quickly looking at some of the top times in the practice there. 3 of our drivers, number 48 in the McLaren of Knopek and Stashcheki, into the 140s, as is Edvardsen as well, also into the 140 in the BMW. So times are ramping up. Are we going to see a 140, maybe even a 139 in quali? I imagine we are just around the corner.
That's right. Yeah, we're going to be going on track in less than a couple of minutes, folks. The wait time is just happening. Free practice is ending. The cars are all returning to the pits, and some final adjustments will be done to the setup. Some of these guys will have been running, of course, race setups in their 60 minutes of free practice before qualifying. Some will be getting used to their qualifying setups, as you can imagine. But yeah, you're right. I think we might be seeing a 39 or 2 today. Knopek was fast, but I'm keeping my eye on Ivanov, who's been setting relatively slower times, 41.1. I don't think that's his ultimate pace. I think we're going to be seeing him and the likes of Lucas Weiss and others who are going to be jumping up the grid. And we do have in chat, welcome in everyone in chat. Lovely to have you in here. Please feel free to ask any questions of us as we go through today's broadcast. I just noticed that Alan Brown is saying, I love Imola. Wish I didn't miss this race. Damn you, work. It's always work that gets in the way, isn't it? So we're about...
that'll be Alan Brown, the BMW driver of the 738. I would make a hazard a guess.
Spot on. Yeah, that's exactly right. So I think on the grid at the moment, we've got 26 cars out there. Qualifying has now begun. So we're going to be going out on track and getting a little eye out for what's going to happen as they do exit the pit lane. Reasonably easy pit lane exit here. Not really a problem. You're offline and you've still got a reasonably good runoff to get the car up to speed for the entry into the first corner. The first corner entry, though, sweeping left-hander into a right-hander. This can create some pretty tricky bottlenecks if you get it wrong, but it's actually a pretty nice overtaking area as well.
Yeah, a lot of cars on grid, as you just mentioned there, so they're going to need to find themselves a little bit of room to make sure that they can get their laps in during this session.
That's right, and we do have more folks jumping into chat and saying, wish we were there. Emperor Pegasus, which class is this? This is the Pro category class, so this is the top of the drivers in Season 10 for the FRL Pure Sim Gear GT3 Masters, the tippy top of the top, and we've got 26 people on the track at the moment. Also, we've got from Dakar Saber, also wishing I wasn't missing it. Always fighting with Woody in silver. Oh, well, I have to tune into the silver race at some point. Of course, you can go over to the Formula Racing League TV2 channel, and we do have the Pro Am category being streamed over there. Nothing for the silver and the Am category, unfortunately. It's not a matter of budget and all that. It's just a matter of getting you guys motivated to get up into those top categories. So if you're racing over in silver, then you will be looking at some point, I imagine, to get up into the Pro class.
Yeah, I think everybody that gets behind the wheel of a GT3 car, or any car for that matter, wants to be in the top tier of any racing. Because Ivanov just is about to start his first flying lap in the 406 Ferrari.
That's right. I think we should stay on board with Ivanov. Like I said earlier, one person who I do want to keep an eye on, he's got that beautiful Luke, I think it's pronounced Luke Oil. I don't want to call it Luck Oil because I don't know if he had a lot of luck out at Spa, unfortunately, whether it was the livery working against him or his own good driving. Sometimes it does happen when you're a little bit overconfident in the car, you spin it around, but the Ferrari should be pretty stable here. It's sort of quite adapted to these situations, high-speed corners, low-speed corners. It's pretty stable for the most part. It's got great traction on the exit, so I'm expecting to see a pretty good time here from Ivanov, and at the moment he is doing pretty well because he is 0.7 up on his previous time. Of course, the indications of the difference, the delta in their laps, will only become apparent once they've set a couple of laps. 12 minutes ago in this qualifying, we've got a yellow flag over there with McLaren, who's decided to go straight back to the pits.
Yeah, it's not the way you want to start your first qualifying lap, or even worse, your out lap.
That's right, yeah.
Off the track.
That's right. Unfortunately for Ivanov, that was a track cut, so he's invalidated his lap. So that's also not a great way to start your qualifying. He'll have to go round for another lap after this. Now, there's a lot of strategies involved in qualifying. Sometimes you want to take full fuel for the entire qualifying. Of course, the tyres will last through, but they're only at the optimum about 2 or 3 laps in. So, you know, what are we thinking here? Do you just sort of half the qualifying, pray that you get a good couple of laps in, and then get into the pits, throw on a new set of tyres?
Yeah, I think crucially it's with only a 15-minute qualifying session and the track being as busy as it is, it's crucial to get that banker lap in early, get yourself back into the pits, get some fresh set of boots and try again. But yeah, if you do invalidate that first lap, it does start to pile the pressure on with only 5 minutes.
Yes, indeed, and sorry to interrupt, but Ivanov has gone for a massive spin there. So that's very, very unlucky for the Ferrari driver. But you make a good point there. Getting that banker in is super important. And speaking of bankers, we've got a few to report back to you. So currently in P1, it is Verona, who's in the Audi, so the 402 car, setting a 1 minute 41.427, followed closely by Dan Edvardsen. He's in the BMW, and that's a 41.4, so not much in it, only 0.02 of a second. Then we've got Hartog, a 41.5, and Rubia, a 41.6, and then Madsen, 41.9, followed by Zakdal, Santo, Cowley, and Pachenko, the only ones to have set a bank of laps. That's only 9 cars out of 26. I think some folks may be struggling out there.
Yeah, it's very busy. There's a lot of cars out on circuit, and now we're into the phase where some of the cars that are circulating are probably on new out laps, as we just see Nopek take the fastest lap of the qualifying session so far, the 140.835 for him. That puts him on provisional pole for now. But yeah, very busy. People are on different parts of their qualifying. They can find themselves in the way, finding themselves closing up to traffic. Very tricky qualifying session.
That's right. It's Edvardsen has now got into Edvardsen, I should say. I think I might have had my first Freudian slip of the evening. A 140.970 there for him. So that's another good lap. Puts him in P2. Nopek is improving though at the moment. And I will also note track conditions at the moment are actually classified as fast, which is not actually the ironically optimum track conditions. So optimum is when the grip available on the circuit is at its absolute peak. So I will admit that's probably why we're seeing a few mistakes, a few people not quite getting their lap in properly. A fast track is certainly not going to give you the maximum grip you might be expecting, and that, I believe, is a car pulling over. I'm not quite sure who that is. I do recognize the liver, of course. Still struggling with the names at this point, but but at the moment, Edvardsen and Nopek both improving. Leinard is now up into P3 and improving on his lap at the moment in the Lamborghini.
It's absolutely flying in the McLaren of Nopek, setting ultra fast times there. We also see Tarin put himself up into P4 just now with a 141.262, just a half a second away from that pole position. And just looking a bit further down the grid to see who is Ivanov still yet to put a reasonable qualifying lap in. So absolute stinking qualifying session so far for Ivanov.
Yeah, maybe coming on the pressure of having a poor result out last week. He's got even more pressure on him. Oh dear. Well, the Ferrari is usually pretty stable, but when you clip the curb like that, it's going to absolutely launch you. So welcome to the Ferrari space program, Mr. Ivanov, because that was nearly a moon visit for you. But nonetheless, he'll have to go once again for a lap. So he's really struggling. I just noticed that P1 has been taken away with a 40.715 by Dan Edvardsen. That BMW is looking super planted. I think the cars that are able to ride the curbs a little bit are going to have the advantage here. As you saw with the Ferrari, every time you touch a curb, it's going to send you to space. But that BMW looking very, very stable. Nopek now knocked out to P2, 1/100th of a second separating them.
That's super close. I mean, how much closer would you want to call it as Rees pops himself into P9 in the 112 and McLaren. Just a couple of minutes left in this. Oh, sorry, I have completely got 6-7 minutes left in the qualifying session, just over. What a fantastic time from Edvardsen there with a 140.7, and yeah, super close up front. As Kiss pops himself into P12, I think that's one of the first of his qualifying laps. And yeah, as you said, the riding of the curbs here at Imola is absolutely really important. There's a lot of time to gain if you can attack those curbs. If you can't attack those curbs like the Ferrari appeared not to be able to, it is a bit of a launch. It will launch you into the air, and obviously that is not a fast way to go around these complexes.
Certainly not. Up on his time at the moment is Taran, 0.3 of a second. He's about 0.5 of a second behind the leader's time. So this will put him into the 1 minute 40s if he can bring it round. He's going through the last 3 or 4 corners of this lap. There we go through turn 9 and 10 at the moment. He's still going to navigate the very tricky chicane. I'm wondering how the Porsche will actually handle these chicanes here. So we'll keep an eye on him as he goes through. Actually seems to handle it pretty well. There's things you can do in the setup to get the car to really work through the curbs. You raise the ride height a little bit on the front and the rear. However, that can really compromise the car in terms of its handling through the low speed and the high speed corners, make it very tricky to drive. So a bit of a balancing act for the drivers here to figure out in terms of their setups. They'll be getting help from the engineering crews down on the pit lane. And for those running solo, well done to you. But it is a bit of a trade-off here, I have to admit. We've got Les coming out of the pit lane now. He's going to be going for a hot lap shortly. Kiss, who we were just on board with a moment ago, lost a couple of positions there, but is up 0.2 of a second on his time. Let's see him go across the line. Goes up to P11. Not a bad lap there at all. Now, I think one of the things we've just noticed as well, the track conditions are now optimum. So you really want to be out there running late in this session and getting out there as soon as possible now. With the optimum track conditions, that's where we might see our 139. And with the fast track conditions, I don't think a 39 was going to be possible. But now, maybe it will be.
Yeah, as Ivanov finally gets a banker lap in as a 1:41.0, still 3 and a little bit of a tenth off the P1 position, but he left that really late into the qualifying session to get that done. But we have a banker lap for Ivanov as we see Dufnat pop himself into P10 with a 1:41.382 for him.
Yeah, not too bad, actually. And unfortunately, missing another livery here for Dufner. Hasn't popped his livery on today. Obviously, the livery team was just a little bit late to get out here, but he's up 0.4 of a second on his time. That could be good enough for a for a top 5 position as it stands at the moment. The P5 position and up is going to be into the 140s. Currently, only 4 drivers up there at the moment. And we've got Hartog, who's improving as well in the McLaren, the 36 McLaren. He's actually just immediately lost that time. Dufner is up 0.5 of a second now. So let's stay on board with Dufner because this is potentially going to be quite a good lap. He's still got over half the track to navigate, though.
Yes, just trying to work out where Dufner is on the circuit. Obviously, I don't have the stream in front of me, so he's coming up to the Sector 2, Sector 3 now, working his way up the hill.
And as we do watch this lap, sorry to interrupt, but we do have a raid from Moose Racing, who oh dear, that's unfortunate for Dufner. He's clipped that curb, the McLaren not very kind to the curbs, unfortunately. Gets himself launched and loses all of that precious time that he was just gaining there. And another unmarked McLaren. Yes, this is a different McLaren. This is Krzysztof Stachecki. He's up on his time as well, currently sitting in P7. So thank you, Moose Racing. Welcome into all the raiders. Lovely to have you here. Of Of course, you're watching Formula Racing TV. This is the Pure Sim Gear GT3 Masters. In the commentary box today is myself, George Cook, and Rob Barker.
Yeah, welcome in, Moose, a good friend of the community. I was watching the stream just before we came over here, so thanks for the raid, Moose, and welcome in. And I hope you enjoy a bit of ACCPC with the Formula Racing League.
So just looking around the grid, we've got Ivanov now on a hot lap, 0.1 of a second up. Same with Stachecki here, so both of them vying for a top 5 position. Stachecki just lost a little bit through that chicane. He'll come up to let me get this name right. Hold on, Rivaza momentarily, and then down the pit straight. But it's Ivanov at the moment who we've got to keep our eye on. He's up 0.2 of a second on his lap, and this could be good enough to get him up into P3 on the grid, but he's coming up to the section that he struggled with at the moment, and this is going to be tricky. Can he get it right this time? That Ferrari not looking very comfortable with those curves at all, but he managed to navigate it quite nicely. I will just say we've had a fastest Sector 1 there from Dufner, who's up 0.7 of a second. So we're going to keep an eye on all of these chaps because the times are starting to come down. The track temperature is going up, and the track is now optimum. This is going to be a great end to qualifying. 1 minute and 30 seconds left to go.
Yeah, just as you was riding on board there with Ivanov, Stachecki pops himself into P5 in the 1:44 McLaren, as Ivanov does take that pole position with a 1:40.6. Absolutely sensational lap from him, just 6 thousandths of a second quicker than the previous pole position. And with the time remaining, if anybody wants to go quicker, they're going to have to get a move on. That is a phenomenal lap from his. Dufner pops himself up into P4 with a 1:40.8. Brilliant time from him. Just under 2/10 of a second from him. Absolutely phenomenal lap there.
That was stonking stuff from Ivanov. That's what he needed to do. But Nopek here in the 48 car is also up on his time by 0.2 of a second. Can he do it? He's taken away pole position. Nopek goes to P1 and takes Ivanov's spot. So the times are still dropping. He might go for another lap here. He's got time to do it. So he's doing very, very well. It's a 40.535. Fantastic stuff. Now everyone, I'm looking at the grid now. The deltas are almost all positive. We've got Stachecki. He's up 0.4 of a second. He's just gone purple in Sector 3. He's going to come across the line. Will this be good enough for the top position? Yes, it is. P1 to Stachecki. He takes it out by 0.15 of a second. That is top stuff. We told you the times were going to come down, and that is evidence of it. So Stachecki leads Nopek, leads Ivanov, leads Edvardsen, but we've got Leinard and Veldman behind as well, also on fast laps. We've got 2.5 minutes to wait, but qualifying is now over, so anyone starting a lap now will not get it. Let's see who can get themselves up into that top 5.
Yeah, Ivanov just about to cross the line, doesn't improve, but Veldman does improve. It pops himself up to P6 in the 1:40.8.
Let's see what Leinard can do here. I don't think it's going to be good. Oh, he has. He's gone another couple of tenths. Great. So he takes that P5 spot.
Yeah,
all eyes.
Good luck from there. Santo pops himself into P10 in the 269 Lamborghini, 141.1 from him. Improved a couple of tenths of a second, pops himself into P10.
Very nice.
Gardby popping his McLaren into the P15 spot.
The grid is starting to round itself out now. Very exciting way to finish qualifying. Stachecki, ironically, is actually on another lap. Edvardsen is also on his final lap. He's coming up to Rivaza now, and this will be the last time he goes through here. He is actually up on his time. I don't think it's going to be quite enough unless he gets a really, really good exit out, which I don't think he did. Certainly wasn't ideal, but this could be good enough to put him up a little bit further up the grid. We're going to keep an eye on him as he comes across the line. What will it be for Edvardsen? Oh, he takes P3. P3 for Edvardsen. And Ivanov is being knocked down to P4 after taking a stonking initial P1 lap there. So, wow, what a fantastic qualifying we have had to witness there, Rob.
Yeah, unbelievable, super close times from the top drivers there. So rounding us off, leading the pack will be Stachecki from Nopek, from Edvardsen, from Ivanov. Leinard will line up in P5 with Duffner just behind Veldman and Hartog on the next. We then have Artemenko. A late charge from Artemenko improved his time and got him up to P9. And we have Kiss and Les in 10 and 11.
Yep, that's right. And we are doing our grid walk at the moment. So the cars, as you can all see, in the order that they're coming up on screen, you will see that on the right-hand side of the grid, of the screen right now. But as you said, P11 to less as well. Good job from Santo getting up into P12, putting that Lamborghini up there. Very close to the top 12, but not quite. P13 will be N Rubia in the other Lamborghini. I think there's about four or five of them on the grid today. Then we've got Rodriguez, who was involved in some great battles in Spa, the 272 McLaren. Then we've got Taryn. So this is a bit of a surprise for Nagel Taryn. The Porsche driver there won our race last time out. Actually, he runs 25 kgs of ballast as well. Then Madsen, the number 5 Audi. Verona, P17. P18 will be Gardby. And the McLaren 221 car. Bezelhoff, the Audi, the number 17 car. That's the car that I recognize. Lindrup in the other Lamborghini there, the 99 car. Keddy, who's also a little bit out of position there in P21. P22 to Pachenko. And then we've got Cowley in P23, followed by Zach Dahl, P24. Bespilotov will take out the 25th spot on the grid, followed by Sergienko with my favorite livery on the grid between these two guys at the bottom of the race. So we are going to be going now over live to the Helicam. We will watch the race start. There is a formation lap, and then we will be getting started with this race. So stay on board. And Rob, what are we expecting today? Are there going to be some sends into turn one? What are we expecting to see?
It's a long race. I think any eager moves will be likely to held off for a couple of laps. If it was me, I would let the race settle in a little bit. You don't want to end up ruining your race at turn one. It is a very tight, tricky complex to navigate, and if you are already 2-3 cars wide there, it's very, very easy to ruin your race. We did see it earlier in the, we've seen it at Imola many times. So if it was me, I would keep it clean and tidy, get yourself settled into a rhythm. It's a long race.
Yeah, I think that's a good bit of advice there for everyone on the grid. Of course, there is a mandatory pit stop as well, so you must pit at some point during the race. We might see some interesting strategies here. I mean, with the track temperature now being 33 degrees, we're going to be seeing an awful lot of tyre degradation throughout the first part of, well, throughout the entire race. So managing your tyres is going to be absolutely critical. Staying out of the walls, keeping that car in a straight line and not sliding it around the corners. So the more you push it, the more you're going to degrade those tires, and the earlier you're probably going to have to pit, or certainly the slower you'll be going towards the end of your stint, and that's not going to be ideal. So taking it easy for 3 or 4, 5, maybe 6 laps, just to make sure you're not graining the tires too much. It's going to be very, very important for everyone on the grid.
Yeah, as the cars make their way down to Acquaminerale, now you can see the amount of rubber that gets left on the road. Very heavy on the left front as you come down the hill into the braking zone. Flicker into the right-hander, again, short stab on the brake, and up the hill you go. Plenty of rubber and tyre wear will happen in that part of the circuit.
Yeah, it's going to be very tricky for them to manage, and I do see a few trying to warm their tyres on the grid. Trust me, fellas, you're not going to need to, because the second you get through turn one, they're going to be up to temperature, and then they'll be a little bit above temperature, and then you'll be grading the tyres a little bit too much. So, yeah, great 27-car grid as it stands at the moment. They're going through the last sector now. They'll be forming up 2 by 2 for the race start, and we will be going green in just a minute. Rob, before we get started, any other thoughts about strategy or the race?
I think the strategy for most of the drivers is going to be pretty straightforward. It is an hour race. You're going to want to try and get the most out of both sets of tyres. Obviously, they do have to change tyre. Maybe we'll see a couple of drivers going a little bit longer if they can conserve some tyre wear during the first stint, and that might set them up for later in the race, having the fresher tyre towards the end. For any late last-ditch manoeuvres to try and gain some positions.
That's right. So here we are. It's round 2 for the Pure Sim Gear Formula Racing League GT3 Masters, we're about to go green here at Imola in a very, very hot set of circumstances. We've got Stachecki on pole, followed by Nopek, followed by Edvardsen, followed by Ivanov. Who is going to get through turn one successfully? Who is not? Hopefully all of them get through. We're about to go green here, waiting for the flags, and we are going to be going green in just a second. Wait for it, and... Oh, this is always a commentator's nightmare. There we go. We're green here at Imola for round 2. 1 hour of racing starts now. Stay tuned, folks, and it's a good start for Stachecki. Nopek follows him. He's going to try around the outside of the first corner. He has it. Oh, a little bit of contact there. Edvardsen looks like he wants to go up the side there as well. Ivanov holds his position. We've got a car off there. I think that might have been Hartog or Artemenko. Behind them, Leinart is following now. A little bit of a nice little grid forming up here. I think that was actually Duffner. So Duffner's gone off at the first corner. Not ideal there. Successfully through turn 2 they go. All in a beautiful line here at the moment. No incidents so far. We've got a couple down the back of the grid who've lost positions. Taran has lost a position already. Kiss has lost a position already. So a little bit of action, but no major incidents so far in this race. Nopek and Stachecki lead us away, and Stachecki already looking very, very fast on the start. Edvardsen in the BMW behind Nopek, looking great as well. He's only 0.1 of a second there. Ivanov as well, keeping an eye in, doesn't want to let these guys get away too quickly, but you've got to be careful on this first lap. Don't let those tyres wear out too much.
Yeah, it was indeed the number 33 car of Duffner that took a small trip into the kitty litter, as I'm seeing quite a few incidents flashing up on the pit wall. I think all of them minor contact, nothing too serious, but a little bit of elbows out from the drivers early on, trying to gain some positions.
Yeah, I think, and that's fair enough at this kind of circuit. Close quarters, there's not a lot of places to overtake. That was nearly very wide for Stachecki at the start. Nopek will try and take advantage of that. They're coming down the back straight now, so that's going to be a great slipstream overtaking opportunity. We've got a big incident there, I think, unfortunately, with Artemenko, who's gone off on the racing line there, trying to catch up with it. Artemenko, oh, it's gone right down to the back of the grid. That is so unlucky. Fastest lap, of course, being set there by Edvardsen, but into the first corner we go. And looks like those two McLaren pretty much equal on pace through the first part of the sector.
Yeah, both Duffner as well, absolutely tumbling down the grid. So maybe there was a coming together between Artemenko and Duffner, one for the stewards to have a look at. But yeah, unfortunately, Artemenko is now in the pits after no, he's not. I do apologise, I thought he was in the pit there. He's very, very far off the pack now.
Oh, and he's gone for another spin at turn 1. He's probably carrying a whole bunch of damage there, but for Artemenko, it has all gone absolutely wrong. That is certainly not ideal there at all, and Duffner might have been caught up in it as well. Looks like the front of that McLaren's not looking particularly healthy, so maybe a little bit of action going on, but at the top of the race, it's still Stachecki from Nopek, from Edvardsen, from Ivanov, from Leinart, your top 5 as it stands at the moment.
Yeah, good start from them. Good getaway as well from Stachecki to keep the car into turn 1 in P1 is always a challenge here. Easy move. If you do find yourself around the outside of turn 1, you can get the pass done. Obviously, the complex swings from left to right to left. But yeah, very excellent start from those guys at the top, and they will be settling into their race paces now. And yeah, head down, and get some miles done.
That's right, Verona, we just saw there having a major incident in the back straight, just going really, really wide, running off track, diving into the wall and across the circuit. So that's been very unfortunate for them. This is a very close battle pack happening now. Verona is going to come into the pits. That's going to let a whole bunch of cars go with Nigel Taran at the back of the pack, but he's got some folks behind him as well. So P15 right now for Nigel Taran. He's our previous race winner, and he's holding 25 kilograms of ballast. So this is a real race of attrition for him. And looking back up the top as well, Hartog as well, getting very, very close to the back of Leinart. But so far, things relatively unchanged, but Nopek is putting the pressure on, really trying to keep Stachecki as honest as possible, forcing him to use up his tyres. The fastest lap going to Stachecki, a 141.8.
Yeah, that pressure is definitely not letting Stachecki get away with this one too soon into the race. Although, yes, Stachecki did take the fastest lap of a 1:41. Nopek is only a couple of tenths of a second slower last time round, and maintaining that gap around half a second between the two drivers at the last time in line. It certainly doesn't look like half a second on track, that's for sure. But yeah, pressure is pressure definitely on.
Definitely on, as we did see a big defensive move there from Keese in the Audi, trying to keep Taran behind him. Huge send back up on the inside line when Taran had pretty much a clear right to the corner, but then goes very, very deep into the next corner and loses that position to Taran. So Taran is moving up the grid slowly but surely. Will have taken now that P14 position. Good stuff from him. He's got a lot of work to do, though. As we do look around the grid, we're going to have a couple in the pits. So we've got Verona in the pits at the moment. I don't know if they're going to be coming back out on track. And we've got a little bit of an overtake here happening between Veldman and Hartog. And that is going to be, I believe, Veldman going through on less there. So up into P7. So your top 10 at the moment, Stachecki leads Nopek, who's just set the fastest lap. Edvardsen from Ivanov, from Leinard, from Veldman, from Hartog, Less, and then DeSanto, who's in a battle with Enrubia at the moment.
Yeah, brilliant stuff from these guys. We do have a car facing the wrong way at turn 2, and that is the number 99 of, let me just scroll down my page, is it 99? It is indeed the 99 of, that would be Lindrup. So he's turned his car around at turn 1.
Yeah, not quite sure what's happened there. My indicators were saying that it might have been some contact with this pack of cars right here, led by Bespilatov, followed by Sergienko, followed by Gardby, sorry. And I think that's Eck as well in the Lego McLaren. So, have you found a livery yet, Rob, that you like?
Yeah, it's always tricky with the liveries. I know. I don't think Sean was best pleased with the Lego livery the other day. I did hear a couple of comments. I actually quite like the Lego livery. It's bright and it's very easy to spot in amongst this many cars.
That's a big moment there for, I believe, that is Gardby. So he's gone a little bit sideways through the chicane. That's certainly not ideal. Let's let Eck through, so Eck will go up into P23. That's some good action happening on track. Fair racing so far. It's letting the Mad Panda car, the other Mercedes. So those Mercedes are definitely my favorites. The Lego and the Mad Panda, absolutely top stuff from those two chaps. Just looking at Enrubia here, there's a little battle going on at the moment for P10. Got Rodriguez falling a little bit behind, but Les, Santo and Rubia have been almost inseparable since the start of this race. So got two Lamborghinis trying to get ahead of a McLaren that is clearly holding them up a little bit. All MR cars, so they'll be all disadvantaged to a similar degree. And just a quick note here, we've got Nopek knocking on the door, Nopecking on the door of Stachecki still. These three starting to bring about a bit of a gap. 2.5 seconds back is Ivanov from this battle pack. Edvardsen keeping them honest. These two McLarens are probably going to start chewing up their tires in no time here as they continue to push the pace out from Edvardsen, who's putting the pressure on in a big, big way.
Yeah, he's not letting those drivers in front get away too soon, keeping the pressure on, keep plugging in those laps. As we see, the gap probably closed down a little bit. Very, very similar race pace between the top two, top three, and you know, I've got to ask the question: how long can they keep this pace up before those tyres start to drop off?
That's right. Well, they're only about 0.8 of a second off of the qualifying pace, or maybe about 1.5 seconds off the qualifying pace. So they're going for it. They really are pushing. I think they understand that track position here will be pretty important as their pace is very similar. But yeah, they're going to have to do something at some point. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring up a graphic here just to compare two of the lap times. We'll be on board with Stachecki. So we'll just bring this up now. Here we go. So it's a little bit of extra information for everyone there. As you can see, Nopek is actually faster through most of the sectors. He's just set the fastest lap again, a 41.590. So Nopek putting a lot of pressure onto the back of Stachecki, and Stachecki is just not quite as quick through most of the sectors here, specifically Sector 2, where he's really falling behind. So yes, Nopek really doing well to put the pressure on at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely, George. Keeping this pace is the question. You know, I'm gonna have to mention again. How long can they keep this pace for on those tyres? Nopec really pushing hard now to keep
Oh,
that gap. Oh, he
that was
did have
nearly
a
a little
look up
move.
the
Yeah,
inside.
it did. It
Yeah.
had a little peek.
A little peek up the inside there.
But doesn't make any headwind there, unfortunately, on Stachecki. And oh, that was nearly a moment there. Crikey, out of turn 12 and 11 and 12. So that's giving Stachecki a bit of breathing room at this stage. So now it's Edvardsen who's going to be looking at the back of Nopec's car and thinking, oh, this could be my moment. This could be the moment. Of course, anytime you go sideways like that, spin the rear wheels, it's going to take out tyre life. So Stachecki here, he might not be going as quickly as Nopec, but if he can keep it more consistent, he'll have more pace in those tyres through a longer period of this race. We have 49 minutes to go in this race. It's been fantastic so far. Great battle across the entire grid, so really enjoying this so far. We'll also bring our attention to a little battle pack that's opening up here for P4. A little bit of a bottleneck is Ivanov for the four cars behind him, Leinard, Veldman and Hartog. And I believe that is 4.2 seconds back to less. So this little four-way battle starting to evolve as well.
Yeah, it's just keeping on the just been keeping an eye on the timing screens between those four. Very close in lap pace, with Leinard being the quickest of the drivers the last time round, but only a couple of tenths of a second between each of those drivers lap after lap. So a very good battle brewing in that that second pack of four cars, as the front three seem to be leaving everybody else behind.
Yeah, they certainly are. Now fastest lap goes to Edvardsen. So I think we're going to go and jump on, maybe on board with Edvardsen and have a little look. And we've got some great views for you here, the rear splitter there. Ivanov just riding those curves, but making sure he's looking after those tyres. So on board we go, and I hear we are getting a front splitter view. Yeah, we go. This is one of my favorite views to have a look at. This shows you the undulating nature of the track. Nopec getting sideways. I think he's really burnt up those tyres and is starting to really struggle on rear grip. That's what the McLaren ends up doing. It's very difficult to get the torque down. Such a powerful car, and that'll burn up the rear tyres before you know it. So I think Edvardsen here, maybe, and you can see just on every corner exit, that car of Nopec's ahead is just getting sideways.
Yeah, it's definitely starting to complain, those tyres are. The temperature is still pretty hot out there as well. Track temperature 33 degrees, ambient 30, so it is pretty warm still out there.
Yeah, very warm, 33 degrees. I mean, that is no joke. It's really difficult to deal with these conditions. Those tyres will be absolutely getting destroyed at this stage of the race. Having a little look back from Stachecki's point of view as well. Oh, did we notice something?
I did see it. I'm trying to catch who that driver was. I saw somebody absolutely tumbling down the order there. I am not sure who that was, though, I'm afraid, George. I think I've missed that one.
But while that's all going on, we've got a big bit of contact. Santo gets absolutely demolished at turn 4 and turn 5, 6. So that's going to take him right out of the battle there. And Rubia and Duffner getting involved in a huge amount of contact there with less, I believe. So that's unfortunate, super unfortunate for Santo there. You're right. Just trying to figure out who was tumbling down the order. I think that might have been Rodriguez.
Indeed, yeah, it was indeed Rodriguez, the 272 McLaren, absolutely falling down the order for some reason or another. Maybe just tripped wide into the kitty litter, but has lost many positions there. So unfortunate for him.
Certainly not ideal. Taron and Duffner also in a bit of a squabble right now. The Duffner just holding on to the position in the 33 McLaren, doing very well to hold on against Taron, who we know is a very fast driver. Of course, he was our winner last time out at Spa in round 1. Bagged himself a bunch of points, and unfortunately also bagged himself 25 kilos of success ballast, which certainly wasn't ideal. We've got Veldman there, who's come into the pits, so the trigger has been pulled for the Audi driver there. Will this give some of the other drivers on the grid a little bit of an idea? I'm not sure it will, to be honest. Into the pits goes Veldman, through goes everyone else. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's only 14 minutes into the race. I wonder if Veldman is deciding to fix a bit of damage that he's holding on the car or something like that. This is pretty early. You're going to have to go 45 minutes on a set of tires and 33 degrees track temperature. That is going to be a tall order to serve.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds like maybe a little bit of damage picked up and struggling to keep the car in a drivable condition. Maybe wants to go in and get that vehicle repaired, which with 45 minutes still to go, it's a very, very long race. So.
Oh, and less is gone. Less is more. Less is gone. I shouldn't make the less is more joke. Less is gone though, and returns to the pit. Looks like Enrubia and him. Oh, huge contact! More contact! Oh, this is a disaster! Hold your brakes! Hold your brakes! Oh my goodness! Taran gets taken out, gets collected by Enrubia. Enrubia having contact, I believe, with Les, who's back in the pits now. And Duffner suffered from this as well, so everyone is lost out there except for Duffner, who manages somehow to avoid the chaos. But Taran has slipped all the way down the order. Contact, huge contact with Les, and wow, that was unbelievable. So we've got a couple going back to the pits from what was a total disaster, and the Lamborghini flying across the track and nearly didn't hold its brakes. Should have been slamming the brakes there to avoid cutting across the track, but picks up Taran in the process. That is super unlucky for Taran. He's gone from he's got 25 kg success ballast. He's qualified pretty low on the grid, and now he's just being taken out as part of the chaos down the order.
Yeah, incredibly unfortunate for Taran there. Also, we see Rodriguez in that earlier incident. He is boxed and returned to track. Veldman has also pitted and returned to track. And as you said, quite rightly, George, Remick Les is now in at the pit after his excursion.
Yeah, I get the feeling Les is going to be holding a lot of damage. Expect to see him in the pits for some time there. So in Rubio, that little battle pack that was going on there, now fighting with Santo, that has just caused a whole bunch of chaos on track, and it's eventually ended up with about 3 or 4 cars ending up needing to go back into the pits. So not quite the standard of driving that we'd be expecting, but such tricky driving conditions out here. The tires are getting very hot, very worn. You're following behind cars on a very, very tricky, complicated circuit, and sometimes things just go wrong, unfortunately, but maybe a little bit avoidable at this stage. We were saying earlier on, it's a 60-minute race. You really have to survive. Look after the tires. It's not just about that lap 1, or that turn 1, in fact. You really need to make sure that you're looking after the car all the way through. Otherwise, you're back in the pits like several cars have been, and suddenly you find yourself with a couple of minutes of damage to deal with. Now, just back on board here, quickly up the top of the pack, Sacheki once again under pressure from Nopek. Edvard from behind them is a second behind. So the battle continues at the top of the grid, but I have to admit, all the action is happening down the grid. Now, we've got an overtake here. Ivanov has just been overtaken by Leinart, the Lamborghini driver for Panda Esports Racing, has overtaken Luke Oil Racing Esports driver, the Ferrari. He's currently leading the Ferrari, so as we semi-predicted earlier on, the Tifosi will be happy about that. Not as happy as they would have been if Ivanov was on pole and was currently in first position, though.
Yeah, interesting battles in the top 3 have now pulled a good 6.5, nearly 7 seconds away from this second pack, which includes Ivanov, Leinart and Hartlog as well in P6 in the 36 McLaren. And there's another little gap back, a couple of seconds back to another quite a large pack of drivers all battling out for positions. Starting with the number 5 car, I think it is, of Madsen, leading a huge line of drivers.
Yeah, something about 15 cars in that line. I'm just looking down the gaps. The gaps from the number 5 car who we're on board with right now. 1.3 seconds, 1.3 seconds, 0.3 seconds for Zakdal, who's going for a little bit of move or thought about it on Bezlov. And 1.3 seconds, 1.3 seconds, 0.4, and then the pack starts to open up just a little bit. Santo, who were involved in that little bit of action earlier on. So big line of cars, as you said. This is the main battle pack that's going on right now down the pack. The leaders are kind of, as you said, running away with things. 6.1 seconds the gap back to Leinart, who managed to get ahead of Ivanov. But Ivanov is not done yet. He's going to be trying to fight back. We'll take a little view on board with him.
George, we did just see momentarily there, Ivanov did regain the position ever for such a short period of time, so they are very, very much in a continuing battle. And is that going to help Hartog in P6 get amongst this pack? Because he finds himself a couple of seconds off the back of those pair, but with those battling, that could very quickly come down.
That could very quickly come down. That's a very, very good point. And we've also got to make the point that Duffner behind there being followed by Madsen. Similar gap between those two. So Duffner could be under a little bit of pressure later on too. But you're right, Hartog here is going to be looking at this battle and going, ooh, yes, chaps, if you'd like to keep on fighting, I'd like to continue to see it. It's great entertainment, and it brings me back into the battle. And of course, if Ivanov starts to make some moves on Leinart, who is driving pretty well at the moment, tricky track to overtake in some places, with a 36 car of Hartog behind, he can just pull out a little bit of pace somewhere, find where these guys are slow, or wait for them to start battling, or just wait for the Ferrari to get sent to space, perhaps. Then he could be right back in this, in the split of a split second.
Yeah, we did see the Ferrari trying to propel itself to the moon earlier in the qualifying session on those curbs. It definitely doesn't seem to ride the curbs as well as the McLaren, and definitely not as well as the BMW. So yeah, very tricky car to be driving. That's probably, you know, maybe why there's not many on the grid today.
Yeah, that is quite possible. I do know from having tuned a couple of these Ferraris in terms of setups that it, out of the pits. Don't know who that is. Got a couple of drive-throughs that we'll talk about momentarily as well. If you can find out who that car is, that would be fantastic. It's just come out of the pits there. I think it might have been DeSanto, potentially, in the blue Lamborghini. But yes, having tuned a couple of these Ferraris, there is a big, big trade-off between ride height and stability of the car. The car is very, very stable. It's got a big rear diffuser, big front splitter, and it really sucks itself into the ground. It's fantastic for stability, but if you need to ride curbs, having that car right at the bottom of the road, millimeters above the track, is a total disaster. So you have to start to trade off. It's a similar thing you get at Hungaroring. You know, the Ferrari is very, very fast there, but if you want to be fast, you need to be cutting curbs. So you need to sacrifice some of that stability and drivability to actually have this thing ride curbs. And I think, just based on what I've seen so far from Ivanov, he's probably gone and erred on the side of just making it more stable, more safe to drive, but that's giving him a bit of hassle in the curbs.
I think that's a good of prediction as any, and as you rightly put, Danny Santo was leaving the pit. So we see Panchenko, Gardby, and Bespilatov, they have stopped after 12 laps apiece. They're going on to a fresh set of tyres, and 2 of those drivers have already returned to the track. So people started to make some pit stops, George.
Yeah. Well, it's getting towards that time. 37 minutes left in this race. So once we get to the halfway point, I think we'll see, we'll see a lot more people diving into the pits, try and half their strategy as much as possible. We might see a few run a little bit longer, and of course those who are pitting early are technically doing exactly that. So they've run a shorter stint initially. Oh, and we've had contact. Duffner has decided to absolutely bin it. Yeah, he's binned it. Tried to go on board with him now. And unfortunately, we haven't been able to for whatever reason. So, in fact, I think he might have had a bit of a connection issue there, unfortunately, because he is no longer in this race. So very unfortunate for Duffner, out, and not going to be continuing in this race today.
Yeah, that's a big problem with the online gaming. Obviously, sometimes the internet will let you down at the most crucial of points, and unfortunately for Duffner, it's let him down today.
Yeah, always a shame to see, but that is the reality of virtual road car racing. And oh, that's a big dive for Zach Dahl. He's looking really, really keen on the back of Bezelhoff. So this is a great little battle going on right now, and it's going to bring not only Cowley, but also Keddy back into the fray here. So this is the fight for the top 10 positions. P9 we're on board with at the moment in Bezelhoff. Zach Dahl, the Mercedes behind him, desperately trying to find a way past. But out of the slipstream right now, and Zach Dahl having to go defensive into the chicane, and he manages to keep it ahead of the McLaren. The McLaren then is now going to be under, sorry, that was the Ferrari of Cowley, now going to be under pressure from Keddy. So a great four-way little battle going on here. Oh, and Mercedes has gone past. Bezelhoff has fallen down and lost the position there to Zakdal. He might lose another position here, actually. Oh, he's gone wide, and nearly a bit of contact there with the Ferrari driver of Cowley. Keddy looks up the inside as well. Keddy's going to pit.
As that battle's going on, George Hartog has now taken P5, and it looks like Leinart, has he boxed?
Looks like Leinart has in fact come into the pits, yes.
Yes, he makes his pit stop after completing 14 laps. There was a penalty which has been cleared for driver 39. That will be for track limit infringements.
Very easy to get track limits infringements here. So 3 warnings for those of you who don't know or haven't played ACC. And oh wow, that was very sideways for Bezelhoff. It's going to open up Cowley in the Ferrari, our only other Ferrari driver on the grid at the moment, as I understand it. In fact, maybe there is another one. You can correct me on that in a second, Rob. Has actually opened up the gap, and Cowley goes through. Will take P9 away from Bezelhoff. But yes, I would like to just take a moment. Of course, you are watching the Formula Racing League, and this is the Pure Sim Gear GT3 Masters here at Season 10. This is the Pro category. Welcome into everyone in chat. It's been brilliant seeing your messages in there. Welcome in. Thank you for all the comments. Continue to ask any questions in the chat. We will get back to you as soon as possible. We're coming up to half race distance in about 4.5 minutes. The action on track has been absolutely brilliant so far. And your top 10 as it stands right now: P1, Stachecki; P2, Nopek; P3, Edvardsen; P4 goes to Ivanov; P5 to Hartog; P6 to Madsen; Kies in P7, getting my words mixed up. P8 to Zakdal, who are on board now with Cowley in P9 and Bezelhoff in P10. It's been a great race so far. Looking for more action coming up, and we do see Cowley now coming into the pits. That will release Bezelhoff to continue his charge up the field.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of people starting to box. Also, Ivanov, I believe Ivanov has stopped to get his tyres changed also.
That's right, we do have a few in the pits now, yeah. So I think it's at the moment in the pits. We've got about 5 or 6 cars sitting in the pit lane at the moment. Takes 30 seconds to change the tyres, so it's a little bit of a effort to do so. But ooh, now we've got to have a little look at this, because yeah, at the moment we've got Nopek, and he's back right on the back end of Stachecki, and this battle has been going off. They've been separated by less than 0.5 of a second basically this entire race. I would say that Edvardsen has fallen off a little bit, so maybe the BMW either trying to run long, save its tyres a bit more, go for some sort of overcut maneuver, or has just started to suffer from tyre wear, made a couple of mistakes and fallen off the back of this pack.
Yeah, having that car in front to chase down, I don't know about you, but having someone to chase down really does improve my lap time. But Nopek is certainly lapping faster than the Stachecki at the moment. Overall, will he want to make a stop? Oh,
and I think
Stachecki boxed.
Yes, yeah, Stachecki has boxed. So our leader comes into the pits. He's pulled the trigger. He says, right, that's enough. Time to get a fresh set of tyres on as soon as possible. So Nopek now has been released. He's got clean air in front of him, currently being followed by Keddy, who he's just lapped, and he's going to put in a few fast laps here. See if he can do the overcut on Stachecki, while Stachecki is looking to undercut and maintain his P1 position.
Yeah, this is where the strategies really begin to get interesting. Will the earlier stop help, as Lindrup finds himself now into P3 after the stops? Everybody's in the box at the minute.
Literally everyone is. Yeah, the halfway marker yeah, is our favourite time in the commentary box, when we have no idea what's going on because everything's happening. But just a quick question in chat from one of our viewers. Why one BMW only? Is it bad in the game? No, it certainly is not. It's not necessarily one of the best cars in the game. It's all track dependent, setup dependent, and we've got Stachecki now coming out of the pits. And will Nopek decide to pit this lap? We will see. But the BMW is an overall very, very good car. It's tricky to drive, and it's very setup dependent, but it is a great car.
Yeah, I think all of the car selections on ACC will get you a result at one circuit or another, but obviously these guys, I believe in FRL, they have to register their manufacturer at the beginning of the series, and they are not allowed to change. I hope I am correct in saying that.
Yes, as far as I understand, that is correct. And that's the Audi running very, very wide there. Not quite sure who that was. I think it might have been Kiss. Yes, it was Kiss. So Kiss comes out in P11. And we've still got the top three at the moment. Nopek, Edvardsen, and Lindrup all still to pit in this race. Les down at P23 also still to pit. So we will be keeping an eye. Nopek and Edvardsen have gone round for another lap. And he's still got a bit of lap traffic to get through. So this lap traffic needs to get out of the way of Edvardsen and let him through. I think that is the Mercedes of Zuck Dahl. They're currently sitting between them.
Yeah, just the 4 drivers that have yet to stop up and down the field. Front 3 of Nopek, Edvardsen and Lindrup yet to stop. But also Duffner towards the back of the pack has also yet to stop.
Yes, that's right. So still a few on the grid to stop, but they'll be running a longer strategy for their first stint as we do pass the halfway mark in this race. So 30 minutes gone, folks. 30 minutes to go, and we're looking forward to the remaining part of this race. It's going to be fantastic. I'm really looking forward to it. Edvardsen still holding on to the fastest lap of this race, and Nopek, of course, is quite happy. But there's a car in between him and Edvardsen at this stage. Not that Edvardsen was advancing particularly quickly, but that blue flag then, oh, we do have a pit. So Nopek comes into the pits. This is where things are going to get critical, and we'll see if he's able to get out ahead of Stachecki. That was a good pit entry there from Nopek. No problem there at all. Edvardsen is advanced up into the P1 position for now. But that blue flag traffic needs to get out of his way really quickly. So Zuck Dahl not doing his duty as a blue flag bit of traffic. He should be out of the way about 2 laps ago.
Yeah, crucial that the lapped cars get out the way of the front runners in the race, because it can play a massive part on their strategies if they're held up too long. Stachecki obviously stopping a couple of laps ago, now on a fresh set of tyres and making his way back towards the front runners as Lindrup finds himself into P2 as Nopek is in the box.
Right, so this is going to be the critical part here. We're on board with Stachecki right now, and we're going to be wondering, will he be able to get out ahead of Nopek? Has Nopek done enough to get himself out of the pits early enough? Let's see. He's running down towards the pit exit right now, but Stachecki is on the front, on the pit straight now. He's going to go past. I think at this point he's put in the fastest lap, so he's pushing like absolutely crazy. This is going to be really tight. Oh, he goes through. Oh, that was close. Yes. Whoa, crikey. I think that fastest lap there close from him just saved him there, I think. So it was a 41.4 there, and unfortunately for Nopek, with those slower tyres, wasn't able to make the overcut work at all. I always get those mixed up, but the fastest lap now with Leinard, though. The gap has actually evolved a little bit between these two. It's about 2.3 seconds there, so Stachecki, great in-lap, great out-lap, did really, really well through his pit stop, and was in a superior position to Nopek. So Nopek will fall behind back into P2 once again.
Yeah, superb out and in and out lap from Stachecki. Gets the move done over Nopek and pops himself back into the P3 position. Although my tracker seems to be telling me otherwise.
Well, hopefully it can get itself sorted out. Based on what we've seen, I imagine our eyes are probably the right way to go on this one. So we've got Lindrup coming into the pits. Edvardsen has gone to the pits as well. On board now with Leinard, who's in a battle at the moment for, I believe, overall P3 potentially. Sorry, P4 potentially at this point. Still in the battle with Ivanov. Ivanov less than a second behind at the moment in the 406 Ferrari. This battle was going on earlier in the race. It's really going to come down to whether or not Leinard can hold on to some good lap times. So Lindrup will be coming out soon. Edvardsen, we've got to keep an eye on this as well. Through goes Stachecki, through goes Nopek. What will the gap be? Of course, the massive amount of overspeed you get on the pit straight is makes it very easy to get past those coming out of the pits. So the gap's going to equalize pretty nicely between the top three. Lindrup is in the pits as well. So Lindrup will now fall back to about P8. I believe is just sitting in the pits at the moment. Yes, he is.
Yeah, Lindrup boxing after 19 laps in that first stint. Average lap time of a 1:43.9, so good pace from Lindrup. He will now drop back into the pack. Super important for Edvardsen right now. Good stop from him as well.
Yeah, Edvardsen had a pit stop time of 41.2, so he's actually a whole second faster in the pits than both Nopek and Stachecki. It's probably why he was able to come out so close to those two instead of falling back. But surprisingly, equal times in the pits from Stachecki and Nopek, so it all came down to that very fast lap that Stachecki took. And by the way, we've just had a new best lap, as those of you who are watching have seen on their screens. Stachecki takes the fastest lap of the race at 41.1. He is absolutely sending it in the latter half of this race. I do want to make a note here. We're on board with Nico Veldman at the moment, who's come out of the absolute woodwork, come out of nowhere, and is currently sitting in P4 ahead of Leinard.
Yeah, phenomenal stuff from Veldman. Absolutely no idea where he snuck up from, because I hadn't noticed those times coming down. So excellent stuff from him. As Stachecki, is someone off?
Oh, someone might be off. Not according to my timing boards.
Oh, I think it's just I'm seeing Lindrup now fall.
Oh, I think you might be right, actually. Yeah, so we've got Lindrup at the moment. Was running much further up the grid. Actually was running in P2 for a few moments there. Somehow has fallen back to P17. I wonder if there was damage that was repaired in the pits. I'm going to take a quick look at the pit lane timer. No, 42.7, so doesn't look like he had a particularly slow lap, although the outlap was a 2:03, so potentially some sort of issue, maybe running wide on the outlap.
Yeah, possibly. He's falling down the order at the minute on his outlap, and settling back into his race. I mean, he was a little bit out of position with the very late stop from Lindrup, so maybe that's just the order naturally resetting itself after the stops.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. But it was a good drive so far from Lindrup. He'll be very fast in this next part of the stint. I do just want to call a little bit of attention up the grid here. Edvardsen is nearly 2 seconds up on his current lap time. That'll put him in the 140s, as in low 140s, if he keeps up this pace as it stands right now. Maybe a little bit slower than that. But Nopek as well, he's just taken fastest lap of the race at 41.060, so only 0.05 of a second faster than Stachecki, who held it just before. Across the line goes Edvardsen to 141.1. So all of these guys now lapping in the very low 141s and really starting to pick up the pace. I think they know that there's only 22 minutes left in this race.
Yeah, it's starting to get down to the latter parts of the race where any moves that need to be done, you need to start thinking about getting them done, or potentially even getting them done. Just looking at the Veldman's race, George, he did stop very early after 8 laps, which has put him in a very good position at the moment on track. Will he make the end of the race having only done 30 minutes in the first stint, or will he have to stop again?
Oh, yeah, that's going to be tricky, because he'll have done getting on 45 minutes on a single set of tires in 34-degree track temperature situation. Those tires are going to be very dead towards the end. I think we can probably expect Leinard and Ivanov to catch up rapidly to Veldman in the last sort of 20 minutes of this race. The Audi's actually pretty good on its tires for the most part. It can be very tricky to keep control of the car, so it's really all going to come down to Veldman and how much tire saving he's done throughout this race. But the gap is only 2.3 seconds back to Leinard, and that's just been getting closer and closer over the last few laps.
Yeah, I'm just keeping an eye on that time there. It is definitely coming down as the guys now are heading towards that final 20.
And sorry to interrupt you there, Rob, but we've just had a big off there from Eck, the Lego Mercedes. who was in a bit of a battle with Domokos Kiss. So unfortunately for the Lego Live Read Mercedes, having a bit of an off there. So apologies for interrupting you.
That's no problem at all, bringing the action as you see it. This is what we do. That's unfortunate then for, I believe that's Benjamin Eck, if I am correct.
That is correct.
Quite fabulous Lego livery car. Thankfully, it is not built of Lego, and he can continue on his race.
Yes, you can imagine what a real Lego car going and spinning sideways would have done to the Lego bricks there, unless they're held together by a black hole or something like that, something with infinite gravity. It'd be quite spectacular, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. As Kiss now falling down the pack a couple of places as well. I think he's in a very close battle with Sergienko and DeSanto in P13 to 50 respectively. And also, while we've been chatting away and bringing you the action from further down the grid, Stachecki takes the new fastest lap of the race with a 1:41.0.
Oh, wow. So we are almost in the 40s in race pace, and that puts us less than half a second away from some of the best laps in qualifying. It just shows how good these guys are to be able to save tyres in such hot conditions for such a long race, and also still be, quite close to their qualifying times. It's super impressive stuff from everyone on the grid. Currently on board with Sergienko at the moment, who's under a bit of pressure from Santo behind, who's been involved in a bunch of incidents so far this race. Les, I just noticed, still has to pit, so it's been running long. There's one of our first long runners in this race, but Gardby up ahead is the one under pressure from the Mad Panda Racing Mercedes. And yeah, just compare the difference between these cars. Look closely, everyone. The Mercedes just eat the curbs, but the McLaren is just constantly getting launched. The McLaren space program versus the Groundwell project that is the Mercedes. And look at the gap just reducing, nearly goes into the back of the McLaren there.
Yeah, super close through that section there, and got contact almost made between those two drivers. Edvardsen with the new fastest lap of the race. We are now into the 1:40s during the race as the fuel starts to come down. Tyres, I'm just looking at the track temperature, still 34 degrees track temperature. It's still very, very warm out there, but fuel load is starting to come down with only 18 and a half minutes left of this race, and these guys are now heading towards the 1:40s.
Yeah, this is getting really, really quick. Optimum track conditions. It's hot out there. These guys are on fairly fresh tyres. Their tyre life is only going to degrade from this point, so all of them taking the opportunity now to really, really push. The gap between them has not really changed a lot in the last 4 or 5 laps. 1.8 seconds between Stachecki and Nopek, and 2.3 between Nopek and Edvardsen. So pretty much equal gap here. They're all absolutely pushing like lightning. 40.970. That is a fantastic lap. I think Nopek might just take that away in just a moment. And he does. So a 1:40.912 for Nopek. They're just going for it, these guys.
Yeah, 17 or just under 18 minutes left on the clock. Now is the time. If you do have tyre life left, you need to start thinking about using that tyre up. But 17, still 17 and a half minutes to go. I wouldn't want these guys to push too much and not make the end of the race. Stachecki in P1 did stop a lot earlier than Nopek and Edvardsen. Edvardsen has only done 5 laps on the fresh tyre. Stachecki has completed 8 laps as Nico Veldman in P4 is now on to his 17th lap.
And we've had an off as well, so apologies for interrupting once again. And cuts across the front of Bezelhoff there. Gardby has gone, so the battle there between him and Sergienko is now over. We've had Madsen as well. Madsen's had an issue. Madsen's off from P8. The Audi drivers had a huge moment. I think it was an unforced error as well. So action going around the entire grid. But Madsen and Gardby losing out massively. Bezelhoff will now pick up the P17 position in this race. But Madsen, that's a disaster. Look at the front of that Audi. The Mercedes of Mad Panda Racing elevated now, potentially up into the P11 slot. So Sergienko is going to be looking fierce. Oh, Sergienko gets hit. Sergienko's been hit by the Santos. Santo is taken out the Mad Panda Racing of Sergienko. That's going to elevate all of those cars up by 2 positions. Santo, too eager way too eager there. That was opportunistic, and it did not work out. Santo's been involved in a large amount of incidents this race, just way too opportunistic and not taking the time. You've got to choose your spot. Absolutely spot on. We've also got another incident here, Pachenko going around, so the tires for everyone on board at the moment just disappearing on track. And now that's going to really shake things up, as we've got Madsen, who's still under a lot of pressure, loses the P11, well, was going to lose the P11 position to a couple of drivers, but both of them getting taken out. So Eck now up into P12. This is the mix-up of the grid that I was expecting to happen. P10 position is now James Cowley, who's under a lot of pressure from Keddy, who's putting a lot of pressure on Marco Keddy in the P9 spots. So things are really switching up. I will also bring attention to the fact that Veldman has had an issue. So it's all happening right now because Leinard is going to be looking to take the inside line on Veldman and take that P4 position back. I think we were right calling it earlier. Veldman's tyres not going to be up to it in the last 15 minutes of this race.
All sorts of action up and down the grid as Rodriguez loses the spot down in P20. I'm just trying to see how many of those drivers involved in collisions are heading back to the pits. So a big impact for some of those drivers there. Lots and lots of damage on board. With only 14 minutes to go in the race. That's seriously unfortunate for some of those drivers. Oddly, after, just bear with me 1 second there, George.
Not a problem at all. We are still on board with the battle between Leinart and Veldman, and Rob's going to be digging up some good information for us from on the grid. Of course, we are full of statistics here in the commentary box. I do love these multi-screen setups. Really good fun. Looks like Keddy is having a little bit of a continued battle with Cowley, but no action happening between them at this stage.
So, as I was alluding to, just looking at the stops, Verona, after a 33-minute pit stop, has decided to come out for 6 laps.
Oh,
I thought that was a very odd pit stop there, and now he's back in the pits.
It's a very interesting strategy. Not sure if it's going to work out for them. Very brave strategy there. 33 minutes in the pits. That might be one of the longest pit stops I've ever heard of.
Yeah, it's pretty long.
Picked up a drive-through, has Gardby. So Gardby has missed the track limits once again. Picks up a drive-through. It's going to drop him right down the grid at this stage of the race. He's coming into the pits to serve that now. And having picked up a bunch of damage in the contact that was happening earlier on, he might be thinking, well, I'll either park the car here or we're going to do the drive-through. But we'll have to repair that damage at some point. You can't do that on a drive-through, sadly. So he'll have to make a bit of a clutch decision at this stage of the race. On board with the battle between Cowley and Keddy. And I believe Keddy has just gone and got that position. So well done to Keddy. Goes up into P9. Well, I might be mistaken with it. Yeah, might be mistaken with that one. I think Cowley was ahead. We'll get back to you folks on that one. We'll let you know. Looking around the grid, Nopek though, he has still got the fastest lap. He's actually improved that by 0.02 of a second. But he's now got there's a little bit of blue traffic for all these guys to get through. That's Gardby, who's just come out of the pits to go into the first couple of corners of this circuit. Nopek has dropped the gap quite significantly. So he's now down underneath 1.8 seconds, and he's really starting to push. I think, again, 12.5 minutes left in this race. They're going to have to do it now or never.
Indeed. KD was in front. Cowley has been pressurising lap after lap after lap after lap, but hasn't quite taken the position yet for P9. But yeah, super close battle between those two, and still remains to be a super close battle between those two with less than half a second apart. Those two aren't done just yet.
That's right, and oh, Cowley had a little look on the outside of the first couple of corners there, turn 1, turn 2. Through turn 3 they go. Cowley's going to have the run on him, though, down one of the first straights here into the left-hander. So he's got the inside line. Cowley will finally go through. He's made the move on Keddy, and Keddy will have to, unfortunately, back out of that and say, damn, I'll have to be okay with P10 for the moment. But that's not the ideal line there for Cowley. Cowley's going to have a lot of work on his hands because we know that Keddy is not only fast, but a very, very good battler. So now he gets to follow Cowley. Will there be another overtake? We will keep an eye on this battle. Behind there as well, I do want to mention the battle between Benjamin Eck and Emil Madsen, which is going on quite significantly. The Mercedes, the Madsen had a massive, massive moment spinning off earlier on, was running up in P8, now down to P12, P11, and desperately holding on with a huge amount of front damage. Benjamin Eck, this will be his best result of the season. And Keddy has made another move, and oh, there's a bit of contact between the two. He's going to have to maybe recuse himself of that position. It was a bit of a push to pass, but Cowley is going to slot in behind, and we go through this once again.
Yeah, good battle between the two, and like you said as well, good battle between Eck and Madsen, just behind that, just a few tenths of a second between those two drivers. Ben has come from nowhere, from absolutely miles behind, and is now really, really pushing to get that P11 from Madsen.
Sorry to interrupt you once again, but we've had a big off. Leinard has had contact with Ivanov. Ivanov and him have come together. And unfortunately, over at turn 6 and 7, Leinard has lost out massively, down into P7 now. That elevates Ivanov into P5. I don't know what's happened to Leinard. Somehow the contact was between him and Ivanov, but Veldman has won out from this because he's back into P4. Hartog elevated to P6, and Eck has just gotten past the car of Madsen. So it's all happening 10 minutes to go in this race.
At 10 minutes of absolute mayhem for the remaining drivers, all now starting to really put the pressure on the close contenders in and around themselves, and we've got battles up and down. Ivanov, Leinard very close in contention, as well as Nopek starting to close that gap to Stachecki for P1, and that's not one that we want to miss out on, so I will keep my eye on that time, but that time is certainly coming down. Some brilliant battles up and down here, George. I don't know where to look.
Oh yeah, I'm in the same boat at this stage, and I'm sure the broadcast crew are sweating in their seats right now, going, oh, we've got to maintain a vision on as many battles as possible. You're right, Nopek is closing the gap significantly. I do want to note that Hartog is absolutely flying in comparison to Ivanov. Ivanov, I think with that contact with Leinard, has picked up a ton of damage on that car, and it's not performing as it was a couple of laps ago. So this battle, another one to keep an eye on. Looking ahead, though, we do have Nopek, and you can see that gap has really, really started to drop. I don't know if Stachecki has just backed off for the last few laps. We do know that Stachecki has run, I believe, two less laps?
Two, yeah.
Yeah, so his tyres are actually fresher.
Less laps. So Stachecki boxed after 16 laps on the first stint. He's currently 13 laps into his second stint, as Nopek went 18 laps on the first and has only done, well, he's only on his 11th lap into his second. We've also got Edvardsen behind, who's only done 10 laps, went extra long on the first stint, and his gap is also closing. So it does look like those tyres are starting to wear thin with 8 minutes remaining in this race.
Well, there's the pressure of being in P1 for most of the race. Stachecki obviously deciding to burn up the tyres a little bit earlier on in the race, and then going to stint 2, had to extend that out and make it a little bit longer, and that has brought in Nopek and Edvardsen. Nopek was for a moment under a second from Stachecki, so it's all really to play for at this stage, because Stachecki's tyres are older. He's been pushing very, very hard, setting incredibly fast lap times, all of them still hovering around the low 141s, and yeah, that is going to mean two laps of tyre life better for Nopek, and another lap better for Edvardsen. So Edvardsen, we could see him closing up on Nopek. If Nopek starts to get bottlenecked by Stachecki ahead, we know that Stachecki will fight for the P1 position, but Nopek certainly won't let him go at all. Starting to look a little bit squiggly on the exit, as he did late in the stint, the earliest stint that he did. So we are going to keep a very, very close eye on this battle.
They are just about to close up to the back end of, I believe it's Panchenko in the 39 McLaren, so traffic in the way as well for those three front runners, sorry. Hopefully they don't get held up too much, but this is certainly not over 6.5 minutes remain of
big
this
news,
race.
big news. Nopek has got a drive-through. Nopek has got a drive-through. He's unfortunately hit track limits just a little bit too much. That is going to be a race ender. He's going to be out of the podium positions. He's got to serve that within the next 3 laps. He's got to come into the pits and drive through Nopek. That is not what you want to see at the end of this race when we were getting a close-up of the gap between Stachecki and him. So Edvardsen will actually advance to P2 once Nopek serves that penalty. And Veldman now, who is under a lot of pressure from Ivanov, is going to be looking down the neck of a P3 finish today.
Absolute heartbreak for Nopek. Had a pretty flawless race all the way up till the remaining 6 minutes. Picks up that drive-through penalty. He will be kicking himself in that cabin because that is race over for him. He will drop down the pack quite significantly after serving that penalty. That's super unfortunate.
I was really looking forward to that battle. That was going to evolve, and now the battle will be between Stachecki and Edvardsen. Edvardsen will need to do a lot of work though, because he's nearly 4 seconds down the road from Stachecki, and at the pace he's going right now, I don't think he's going to be able to make any kind of move later in this race. We do have 5 minutes to go. You're watching the Formula Racing League GT3 Masters, sponsored by Pure Sim Gear. It's been a brilliant race so far. There is 5 minutes remaining. Stay tuned. It's all happening, or was going to happen at least, because Nopek with the drive-through unfortunately killed a little bit of the fun. Nonetheless, still plenty of battles going down the grid. So let's just run through our top 10 as it is right now. Stachecki P1, Nopek P2, Edvardsen P3, Veldman in P4, Ivanov in a battle with Veldman for the P3 position. This is now a battle for the podium. Hartog in this as well, sitting in P6. P7 is Leinard, who missed out. That might have been a podium position for Leinard had the contact between him and Ivanov not happened. Zach Dahl sitting in P8, P9 to Cowley, and a Keddy who's fallen off the back a little bit of Cowley. Cowley taking the P9 position, and Keddy in P10. What are your thoughts on where Nopek might come out in this battle pack once he's served that drive-through?
So I'm just looking at the in lap and the out lap with the pit stop. You're looking around a 2 minute. I predict he is going to fall maybe well out of the top 10.
That is super unfortunate. It was a drive worthy of the top 10 for sure. The top 3 almost certainly. And yeah, I mean, look at the gap now. This is the battle that we were looking forward to, because they're right on each other's bumpers again. And there was going to be some potential for overtakes. It's going to bring Edvardsen in. Now, this battle now, because Nopek's probably just, not only is he kicking himself in the cockpit, he's probably thinking, well, you know what, I can feel a little bit better if I can get ahead of Stachecki. So let's just try it. We've got 2 or 3 laps until well, 2 laps now, until we have to serve the drive-through. Maybe I could just put a send on him and just give him a little bit of a bit of fear for the remainder of the season, to let him know, hey, I'm here. And I'm going to be fast. If I don't make these mistakes, you're a goner. But this is going to bring Edvardsen back into the battle, so we will keep an eye on that, but he'll have to serve his penalty very, very soon. The rest of the grid starting to get a little bit more spread out. No, not really any other close battles happening on grid. Things are just starting to sort of settle down in the last 3 minutes of this race. Everyone going, I'm going to consolidate my position. It is what it is. We've raced our hardest, and we've got a little bit of lap traffic ahead. There's the drive-through for Nopek, so he's going to have to come into the pits. What a unfortunate way for that to end.
Yeah, devastating for Nopek. Just doing a little bit of quick pencil and paper math. Melker Gardby served a drive-through penalty, which was a total time of 41 in the stop. So if he is lucky, he may still take home P7.
Well, P7 wouldn't be a bad way to do it, and you'd be outside of the top 5, so you wouldn't get a success ballast for the next race in the series, which we will, by the way, talk about momentarily. Well, not momentarily, in about 2.5, 3 minutes, in fact, where we will give you guys the rounding of the outro of this race. But it's been brilliant, other than a few of the drive-throughs. Really unfortunate. Nopek is out of the pits now. Where is he going to end up? Currently sitting, as you said, in 7th position. So very unfortunate for him. He's got the 402 car behind. I believe that is lapped traffic. But yeah, for Nopek, that is race over. He will get some points, though, for fastest lap of the race if he holds on to it. Don't think at this stage Stachecki will be looking to take that. Just wants to consolidate his win at this stage, because we are coming up to the last lap of this race. The white flags will be out for this lap. So, yeah, next lap will be the last lap for Stachecki.
Yeah, I'm sitting looking at my pencil math thinking, I can't believe I did that.
That's actually really well done. Are you sure you haven't got a calculator on the side there? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. That's no, absolutely spot on there, Rob. So yeah, well done. I certainly couldn't do that. That's for sure. My math is horrible, especially when I'm on stream.
So, just coming up to the 1 minute mark, George. Anything that we can see? We've got Hartog just a couple of tenths behind Ivanov, really putting the pressure on. Now lapping nearly half a second faster last time round. Is there enough time for Hartog, do we think?
I think there might be, yeah. So they're going to come across the line here. Hartog is close enough to potentially make a move into turn 1. They're going down the pit straight at the moment. Very, very close battle going on between these two. Ivanov has fallen off the back of Veldman, who's up in P3. But you're right, Hartog is looking fierce in this last lap of the race. It's all to play for here, really, between these two.
Yeah, so yeah, super quick. We've got Lindrup again, just a few tenths behind Madsen. He'll be wanting to get something done as the 20 seconds left of this race. The clock is ticking down, and this will be just trying to find out where the leader is on the track. Will they get one more lap?
No, so he's coming through sector 3 now. Yeah, this is the last lap.
Just coming up to Alta, so this will be the last lap of the race. Stachecki with the 3.6 second advantage over Edvardsen. What a drive from Stachecki so far. Just two main corners left to go for him, and he will take victory this evening in the 144 McLaren. Phenomenal drive from him, George.
Yeah, it's been absolutely brilliant. Stachecki has been dominant. He stayed ahead this entire time, this entire race. 60 minutes has elapsed, and this will be the last lap of the race. Stachecki will take P1 position. The checkered flag is out. P1 to Stachecki. Excellent race from him. Looking down the grid now, Edvardsen comes across the line, flashes the lights, and takes P2. Veldman, what a race from Veldman. We'll have to figure out how many positions he's gained in this race, but a P3 position. The battle for Ivanov and Hartog continues, but I don't think anything's going to come of it. Veldman goes across the line. P3, his first podium position in the Season 10 GT3 Masters. Ivanov will take P4. P5 to Hartog. And then Leinard, unfortunately for him, was looking at a podium. He'll take P6 overall. Nopek, P7 comes across the line. And then through the last part of the straight, Zakdal, who's been involved in some battles. A little bit of controversy maybe out on track as well. Something for the stewards to look into later. Comes across the line to take a very respectable P8. And the battle here between Cowley and Keddy has continued for these last couple of laps. Benjamin Eck has done brilliantly to bring himself into this battle, but to no avail at this stage. Cowley goes across the line, will take P9, P10 to Keddy, and nearly a top 10 finish for Benjamin Eck, but it's not to be. Madsen will come across the line in P12. Keese, I believe, has just gotten ahead of Lindrup for P13. Lindrup will take P14. Bezelhoff, P15. Sergenko, P16. Bespilatov will take P17 as he come across the line. And then the 272 car of Rodriguez and Santo, who've both been involved in a bunch of action. Santo specifically as well, takes a P18 and P19 respectively. And of course, we do have the rest of the finishers here down the grid. P20 to Pachenko. Gardby will take, and well, I think that's it. They have finished the race there. This is not another incident. P21 for Gardby. Artemenko, P22. Verona, P23. And Les, who's been sitting in the pits for 2,860 seconds, will take the last position of P24. What a race. An absolutely brilliant race. Well done to everyone on the grid. But the winner, Stachecki in the 144 car, will be absolutely stoked with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Stachecki, absolutely, as you said, absolutely dominant in that McLaren for the race 2 at Imola. I think also, very, very good drive from the BMW to take P2. I think he'll be super, super happy with that. Obviously, massively unfortunate having to take that late drive-through penalty, which essentially gave P2 position away. But I still think he'll be very happy with that P2 position.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, at the end of the day, P2 is nothing to spit at all. It's a fantastic position. I think Veldman at the moment, for P3 was just an absolute, just out of the woodwork. I mean, I'm just trying to figure out the positions gained right now for Veldman, and I think it might have been in the order of 12 positions. I think he might have started down in P18. He's gained, I think, somewhere in the order of 12 or 16 even positions. We'll have to figure that out post-race. But of course, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. What a race at Imola we've had. Stachecki putting on a masterclass, Edvardsen taking P2, and the battle that was to be, but unfortunately was not. Nopet getting a drive-through late in the race and taking him out of the action. But lots of battles around the pack, lots of action, some unfortunate spins, contact throughout this race. Imola is known for the action that it's put on, and today it has put on a real show for us. And we'll talk about what's coming up shortly. But Rob, it's been a pleasure, mate, having you in the commentary box. Any final thoughts on the race as it stands at the moment?
Absolutely phenomenal stuff from the drivers. Really enjoyed the race. 1 hour of Imola. One of my, like I said at the beginning of the broadcast, one of my favourite circuits. Wheel-to-wheel stuff. We've got plenty of incidents to look at, but we had plenty of phenomenal racing also, and fantastic victory. Well done to all of the drivers.
Top stuff, and like I said, Rob, it's been an absolute pleasure being in the commentary box with you today. On behalf of myself, George Cook, and Rob Barker, on behalf of 00 Raven Comms, been a pleasure bringing you all the live action from the circuit today. So looking forward to next week, which is going to be round 3 of our 7-round season 10. With the GT3 Masters Pure Sim Gear, brought to you by Formula Racing League, Bathurst. As you might have noticed, I've got a little bit of an accent. I'm from New Zealand, but Bathurst, very close to my heart. Looking forward to that. We're going to have 60 minutes out there on August 24th, so make sure you tune in. It's going to be all to play for. Very exciting race coming up for you next week, and we'll bring you all the live action here on the Formula Racing League TV. If you've enjoyed today's broadcast, please give us a follow. It's free. You get notifications on when we go live, and of course, you can always change your mind. So a big thanks to everyone in the chat for all your engagement today. Thank you to the Racing League, Formula Racing League organisers, and everyone in the background for all their hard works. Great action out on track at Imola today. We're going to leave it there, folks. So stay safe, take care, good evening, good night, and goodbye from the commentary box. We'll see you next time.